What's up? Welcome everyone to our first video episode of the Ordained Love.
We did it.
Now, we apologize because we know we need to work on our sound effects, but the technician here, who is also the producer, who is also the co-creator.
Come on.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Working on that. We're going to get our sound effects up to par. Today, we are joined by two phenomenal guests.
Mm-hmm.
We first met this young man and this young woman. I wouldn't even call it by happenstance. I just think when God has a plan, he has a plan. So the way that we connected was through a photo shoot. Through that photo shoot, there was just something about this couple that really drew our interest, drew our attention to them. And we wanted to make that connection last, and we wanted to grow that connection. And that ultimately led them here on the podcast with us. So welcome, Kenneth and Dawn Bridgett.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Glad to be here.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Kenneth and Dawn, like I said, we do things pretty relaxed on the podcast. And like I said, we met you guys through Kenneth's business, his photo business. And then Miss Dawn, I met you through the photo business when we were conceptualizing what our photo shoot was going to be. But through that photo shoot, we just heard a little bit about your story, about your journey, and how you guys are huge faith people. We love your relationship. It was very obvious. You guys came to the shoot together. Miss Dawn made me feel like a superstar. She was wiping the
Teamwork was
sweat.
amazing, right? Yeah, I think that's one of the main things that I saw that I really picked up on was just the teamwork.
Yeah.
You know, the teamwork was just
Yeah.
amazing. You know, he was clipping the shot. She was like, "Hold up, wait,
Yep,
wait."
She was like, let me get the
Yeah.
going. He's like,
Making sure the missus is all right.
Right. She made sure my forehead wasn't too greasy, which I probably wish she was here right now because my forehead probably just as greasy.
and so that their flow and their rhythm was dynamic, and you guys just really stood out to us as a couple.
Mhm.
You guys, to me, I feel like you guys are game changers. You guys are a couple that other couples can look at and say it is possible. And so we wanted to we're so glad that you guys have honored us by being the first guest on our podcast. You guys are the
Amen.
first guest that we have
That's
had
right.
on the
Mhm.
podcast.
That's right.
And so I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves, who you are, where you're from, and what it is that you do.
Wow. Well, first of all, let me say we are so excited to be here. And, our business, which we call it a ministry, really, we'll probably get more into that story. It really has allowed us an opportunity to meet a lot of people. We were youth pastors for 9-10 years. And then God shifted us into the marketplace. And to some people that really didn't make any sense. But I mean, the truth is we were able through the business to meet and impact more people than we ever could have from behind a pulpit, hands down. And so sometimes we do come across some people, man, that, we just really connect with. And you guys happen to be one of those couple, we're really simple people, we're not that complicated. We're really simple people, man. And we're real people. We try to be, just as authentic. And, when we met you guys, it was just real, and your love was real, and the chemistry was real. And servicing you guys, it was easy. It really was. So first of all, thank you for allowing us to come here. And we're excited about what you guys are going to do. As far as us, man, I mean,
He's from Delray and I'm from Fort Lauderdale.
oh, you want to throw that out there first? Shout out to Delray Beach. Delray Beach, Florida, stand up.
She said he's from Nazareth and I'm from Jerusalem.
Oh, right, exactly. But where do we meet?
At one of those parks on Sunday, how everybody used to regroup up, and we met the third Sunday that I went to. I met Ken.
Yeah, and it was in what city? That's what I'm trying to make you say. Delray Beach.
Delray. Something. Were you about to say something good?
Come out of Nazareth, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, we've been together now, 27 years. And we just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary back in September of last year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And, it's our story is like you mentioned, man, we're people of faith. We've overcome a lot. We've had to endure a lot. And, one thing I tell you, we are far from perfect. We're just not. But it's just some way, somehow, man, God makes it work with us, And so even in those photo shoots and stuff like that, listen, y'all say we can be real because I want to be authentic, right?
Absolutely.
I don't even know. We might have been fighting that day or fussing it out before the photo shoot. I don't know. But I'm keeping it real. But, when it's time for us to come together, it's like somehow her and I, we just we do it, and it turned into magic. And that's been the case with ministry and business. And but we give God all the glory.
Yes.
And but we take it one day at a time, man. So we're business people, we're entrepreneurs, we're ministers, and like I said, we're just real people.
Well, here on the podcast, one of the reasons why we started this podcast was because we wanted to kill those stereotypes about and actually really bring a different narrative to the conversations that are already out there about Christian marriage and what that looks like. And so for us, the Ordained Love, it's not us saying that, okay, God chooses this person for you to be with, and this is your soulmate, and you're ordained to be with them. It's more like saying, look, God has laid out a biblical framework for love relationships. Can you guys talk about how that ordained love framework, how has that shaped your relationship throughout the years? How has God's framework for how you are supposed to relate to Dawn and how Dawn is supposed to relate to you, how has that fit in or shaped your guys' relationship over the years?
Well, I'll say this, and then because I know my wife has a lot to say about this, and I want to kind of just set the stage for us. And I think with most, if not all, of our godly relationships, the key to it is God. We have to honor God and His Word first, right? And then everything else follows down through that. And so for us, we've been together 27 years, and it's many days that her and I, we look at each other like it ain't nobody but the Lord that kept us together, because no matter how far off we get and problems, the issues and all that stuff, it seems like because I have a relationship with God and because she has a relationship with God, He's able to pull it back together, right? And so I'll let you go ahead.
As for me, Ken is more in the forefront. I'm always pretty much through the ministry, through the photography, I've been behind the scenes, and I've learned to adjust. Sometimes it can get kind of shaky because you're feeling left out, and how God is still allowing me to still withstand and still, as far as my marriage, still be loving. We have a loving relationship. In the end, I kind of got frustrated and asked God, what about me? What about me that I felt left out? And to be able to tell women, you do endure for a time, but God soon He'll elevate you up in time throughout the marriage.
True. I know how you were saying it. God has a framework, but I think we all have to understand we're learning that framework as we go. You know what I mean? I don't know. When I look at it, we just celebrated 20 years. When we got together, I was 21, she was 26. And so now 20, 25 years later, it's like we're completely different people. We're learning each other again. But that foundation of God is still the same. You know what I mean? So like I said, that's where the framework, that's the foundation for us, where we can always go back to Him. And then as we're transitioning through different parts of life, He's the glue, ultimately. So I mean, you guys have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I just wanted to get a little bit more specific with Miss Dawn with your answer. can you give our listeners an example of what that looks like? So when you say my husband's in, because let's keep it real, many wives feel that way, Miss Dawn. Like many wives feel that. Now, I don't know that feeling, Miss Dawn. Because I'm like the opposite. I'm like, no,
I feel your pain, Miss Dawn. Me and you like this.
You know, sometimes it go like that. It may be like you guys that started off. You know, he's like me. He's the man, and it could get a little, you know. I'm like, Lord, what am I, you know, to do? Sometimes I get tired. You know, with him, I get tired of the people with ministry, which is true. You know, you get tired in the ministry with certain ones, and he not listening to you because I'm telling him, hey, listen here, how to address this, or, you know, whatever like that, and feeling left out. So, you know,
well, let's dive into that. Let's dive into that, because I don't want to rush past that. What do we do? I am a newly married young person, right? Christian or non, right? Because I don't want to be so naive to think that only Christians listening to this podcast. I'm a young newlywed, and my husband may have a business, or he may have a ministry, or whatever he's in, but he's in the forefront. He's pretty much the face that people see when they think about our relationship. And I feel left out. What is my process? What can that process look like if I want to successfully navigate that season of my life until I get to that season where God says, okay, I'm going to add gifts to you. I'm going to open up opportunities for you. And then you're going to be the head or the leader in this particular venture or this particular area of whatever it is you two guys are involved in. What does that process look like? How do I not become bitter and resentful towards my husband, God, and whatever it is that my husband has going on?
I'm going to tell you one thing that kept me, my prayer life. When we were in our home, we were there for 13 years, how God strategically one-on-one with me from different levels in my prayer life, things that I didn't know. I didn't go to man. I went to him, and he taught me in my home. I got the baptism of the tongues. I was home. God said, I want you to stay home today. And I told Ken, I said, don't get mad. I was working then, but I said, I'm not going into work. And that day I spent time, and each day God elevated. That's how I would stand. He elevated me every day, prayer life, talking, and Ken would work and come home. But that was I'm gonna just say that was my job, being home doing that. Because since 2008, I haven't had a job. I had a job when I first got saved, but God said, I want you to leave. It's time to leave. And he one-on-one strategically grew me up, prayer life. And from then, that was during the ministry time. And then with the photography, it all changed because we worked together in home, you know, and that we were able to grow spiritually and business-wise, being business owners.
I think too, if I can just add, my wife, she has the ministry of helps. And, you know, sometimes we don't put as much value on those gifts as we do the others. We think, all right, if you're not out in front with a microphone and all that stuff, then your gift is less valid than someone who has a gift of ministry of helps. And so, you know, for me, you know, I have been very fortunate because, you know, even though, like I said, for a large part of our life, she's paid the black background, but she's also, in this part, many people don't see, you know, she created stages for me to be able to step out on, you know what I mean?
Right,
and so people look, I don't pick out my own. She told me to put this shirt on today. You know what I'm saying? So they see that, but they don't.
I love the coordination.
But the point I'm making is that I think you were saying from a practical standpoint, you know, how do we endure that without getting bitter. I think the first thing is you have to understand that if you're in a position where you may be in a supportive role, that is very valuable. And you need to first understand that in itself is a gift. To be able to underguard, to be able to take the background, if you will, to be able to shadow and have the support and all those different things. That's a gift, because I mean, again, I'm just trying to give her accolades right now, but she has a gift of being able to create a home and a comfortable environment. That's a gift. I can go out there and stand on the stage all day, but if I got to come home and don't have a place where I can sit down and it's clean and all those things have value. So I think for those that may have been in that season for a season where they were behind, first embrace that gift, embrace that place. And then I think the other part is, in my job, which I think I've done better, but I still need to improve, is really helping her understand that I appreciate that gift, right? So she has to appreciate it. And then I also have to show the appreciation. That way we eliminate it, because we need both. We need both. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if like you were saying with the photo shoot. People see the end, they see the pictures, right?
Yeah,
they see that. Yeah. But what they didn't see was the time where she was making you feel comfortable and patting your head and showing the mirror, and all of that is necessary for the experience.
Right. That's what really made the experience.
Yeah, Miss Dawn turned on the music.
I don't have a problem with servitude. I've done that from day one. I always make sure people comfortable, but I'm gonna say this. I used to get mad at him, and I'm just get mad at him with the ministry, because he used to forget about me some of the time, and you'd be so focused on with the youth and the demands, being a youth pastor, even with the photography, and we'll get into that, where God has transitioned us from the photography to something else, but there has been a time when I say, Lord, you better get him.
That's actually a really good lesson for men, because I kind of done that too, where I've been in situations where kind of God has given me a platform, and it's like, I thank God for everything and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of do my thing. And then later on, she's like, feeling some kind of way, like, what's wrong? Like, it was an amazing night. Not really, not realizing that I gave everybody their accolades, and then I did not mention her once. He's
done that. He's done that.
I've done that.
You don't intentionally do it. You don't intentionally do it, but you have done that until I was like, Joker,
But I think that,
because like you said, Nate, I mean, I think you get caught in executing on what you got to do, and sometimes you do. You don't appreciate the people that are closest to you. And I'm guilty. Not all the time, but I am.
It's not that you don't appreciate. It's just that, like you said, you get so focused that you're just doing the work.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate you.
Right.
The person would love to hear that, especially in the environment where other people are listening. Like, the only way they're going to know I exist is if you say something. And that used to kind of get me. I used to feel convicted a lot about that. So I try to be a little bit more mindful whenever God does give me some sort of a platform to remind everybody, if it wasn't for this lady right here, and we hear it all the time, she's my backbone, we hear it all the time, but I think it is important for us not to.
And I always get Nate his kudos, because I cannot front. I'll be like, y'all, I'm a hot mess. Nate did this, Nate did that, Nate did
she is really good.
I did this missions trip, right? This was like the first time where I noticed that I had the opportunity to go to this missions trip to Liberia, right? So Nate turned into like a mommy eagle. Like, he was I was like, you got your immunizations. Your doctor's appointment is at this time. You going down here getting and just every little thing. I didn't have to worry about anything. And I think from that experience, we learned that those two roles really change depending on the project that we're working on, whatever it is that we're doing, especially like in the home, right? Like, okay, if I'm making dinner, Nate's helping with homework. You know, if Nate's cleaning, then I'm tending to the boy, you know, or doing the grocery shopping. If I do the grocery shopping, when I come home, he's cleaning the refrigerator out. So we learn from that experience that those two roles change. And the best way to make sure we get back to the finish line is just like get in where you fit in, you know, get in where you fit in, because then we can look at each other and go, you got me, I got you, you got me, I got you.
And you know what needs to be done.
Right.
So instead of, I've learned to, instead of, because sometimes you can keep on, it's been many years, and certain things can still do, and I just like, Lord, I ain't gonna say nothing. Let me just go on and do it. Let me just go on and get it out the way, you know, because I'm learning to use more wisdom now, you know, because the more if I fuss, all they're gonna do is make it maybe matter, you know, and get.
Look, I'm almost 50. What you see now is what you get.
I say, Lord, I'm not even gonna go that route today, you know. So
I think in just got to piggyback what you were saying, Yvonne. I think too, when you're equally balanced, I think it does have a way of you kind of shift, you know. Because I remember my wife, you know, a couple months ago in October, she had to have a major surgery. And when she had to have that surgery, it was overwhelming, you know, what she was going through, just mentally, emotionally, which is overwhelming. And I found, and prior to that, she would always be the one to go to make sure I go to the doctor and all those different things and but when she got sick, I found myself like when we go to the doctor's appointment, I'm like, no, you sit there. I'm at the desk like, okay, she's here. What do we need? Where do we need to go? And it's like I said, instinctively, those roles shift because I knew at that time she wasn't able to walk in that strength that she normally would. You know what I mean? So I can't say I would always been able to do that, but you know, I think that's part of the relationship and the balance where after a while, a good relationship is not two people being strong all the time. It's people understanding I'm gonna complement your weakness, right? And being sensitive enough to see, okay, this is where the weakness is. And like she said, instead of me saying, well, boom, I want you to do it. I want you to be strong, be strong, be strong. Just accept, all right, listen, in this area, there's weakness. And instead, for the sake of peace, I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? Because we have to keep the relationship. You know what I mean? It's not about being right. It's about keeping peace.
And when I heard you say that, you know what I heard? It's about keeping peace so that the us can live.
That's
right?
it.
Come on,
that's
a good
have
one.
the peace, the us dies, and what that looks like is people, and what that looks like is people, two ships. What they say, two ships passing in the night. You're in the same house, but you're like two ships passing in the night. What that sounds like is we grew apart. No, you didn't grow apart. You stopped covering and eliminating that person's weakness. So I want to ask you guys, what role does faith play? Because let's keep it real. There are people out here who say, I hear what you're saying, guys, and that sounds great and that sounds lovely, but my husband or my wife been dealing with the same weakness for 20 years. Why they just can't pick up their drawers out the floor? It's been 20 years, you know? And so
right. How about that? That's it. You.
So what role does faith play? And I want to hear your answer, and we'll come behind you and speak to it a little bit. But what role do you think, or what do you feel that faith plays in that? Because it takes faith to look at an imperfect individual and say, I see your weakness and I know your weakness needs to change, but I am going to still believe that somewhere along the line, you know what I'm saying? We will find a way to overcome it, or you will find a way to overcome it. Now, we joke about the underwear on the floor, but those are all small issues. You know, there are people out there that says, I love my spouse. I don't want to divorce my spouse, but my spouse has been an alcoholic for 20 years of our marriage, you know, or whatever. My spouse has anger issues. And it's been good. Sometimes it'll be good, and then, you know, they'll just fly off the handle. Now I'm not talking about endorsing physical abuse.
Right.
But what role do you guys feel that faith plays in the ability to look at my partner's weakness and say, okay, I'm still going to stay in this thing and want to cover your weaknesses?
Right.
Because it gets to a point where you be like, look, you ain't never going to change, you know?
Right.
So,
well, maybe the last 2 years, me and Ken, we was bumping heads a lot. We was bumping heads really a lot. And I said, Lord, right before we did our renewal, that was, yeah. And I say, Lord, I don't know if I can go any further, because we were like bumping heads with the photography, trying to transition into the other business, because I told him I'm tired of the photography. I don't want a husband doing photography. I'm tired of the interactions, little things, you know, and we all know what we're talking about. So I told him, I just say, God, I'm tired of it. And what I did, I saw God when I shut up. I saw God moving. It was before I had the surgery. He closed the studio down, and Ken, we just went into another direction, what we're doing. And I just watched God, how Ken is just thrusting into the new business. And I said, Lord, you answer prayers. All you got to do is be steadfast, you know, with your praying and stuff, because he will answer your prayers, because when it gets so rough that the D word comes up, and it has come up, it came up to, I was like, Lord, I'm going to serve you forever, but I don't know. I don't know if I can withstand this. But I seen God move him in the right directions, so we can't bump heads anymore. So
I think two things to answer your question for me. And I know I don't want to get too churchy, because I know this platform is not churchy, but I do think a lot of conflicts people have is because they're really in relationships that they really shouldn't have been in to begin with. And it's just unequally yoked. You know what I mean? And so with her and I, even though, again, we're adjusting and changing, I know that this was the person that God intended for me. Right. And so does that mean that it's going to be perfect every day? No. As a matter of fact, that probably means you're going to have a lot of challenges that you need to overcome. But at the end of the day, I have no doubt that this is the relationship that was intended for me. Now, that still means that there's going to be work, right? That being said, I think to go back to your earlier question, what do we do? Like how from a practical standpoint, what do we do in terms of our faith and employing our faith beliefs into the relationship? For me, I think I have to always remember that God is a God of love and grace, right? And when I look at my relationship with him, I know that he loves me in spite of my mess and in spite of all of my problems, all of my issues, all of my shortcomings. And despite all of that, he's still there. He still covers. He still provides. He still loves me no matter what, right? And so as a man, I know that my charge is to love my wife like Christ loves the church, right?
You better say that
right? I have to love my wife like Christ loved the church. And so that means that I have to expect that she's going to do and say things that I'm not going to agree with. I have to expect that she's going to fall short, because I do, right? As a human and in my relationship. Now, are you going to put that faith to action? Are you going to go in and be patient and loving and kind and long sufferance and tolerance? Right? We talk about those things.
Did you read 1 Corinthians chapter?
Come on, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, right. Like, you know, because we say that stuff, but like patience, tolerance, long suffering, like those are things that we don't want to embrace as part of our faith, but that is part of our faith, and so that means that. You know what? Because there's many times, like she said, she tell on me, I go to her, I go to God, like, God, look here, man. I mean, listen, you got to get your daughter. Like, this your daughter. I can't do nothing else with her. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. You gotta, you know what I'm saying? And then somewhere here remind me, haven't I been patient with you?
Come on.
Haven't I been kind to you? Right? Haven't you asked me to forgive you for a number of things and I did it? And I'd be like, yeah, but I don't want to forgive her this time.
I could be mad in the next hour. I'm okay.
See, I don't like that.
I
don't like that.
And our menopause and all of that, and he was like, "You just was fussing at me. How did you?"
I don't like that. I don't like. She can go from 10, and then like an hour later, she come in. Hey, you want to go to the store? And I'm like, I ain't going to the store with you. You know, and then I got to go through this whole process of negotiating with God and detoxing. And then, but then, like it said, it's like patience, kindness, long suffering. Let me forgive you. And for the sake of us making it right, let you know it, whether it's right or wrong, let's just forgive and love and endure, because that's what the relationship is all about. And you can do that when you know that you are with the person that God intended. Now, if you enter into relationships and you got into those relationships under false pretense, under some other agenda, and it was never really a relationship that you really should have been in. Now that's a whole nother issue. You know what I mean? You're taking on stuff that really the Father never really intended for you. You brought that on yourself. Now there's still a grace in that, and there's still an ability to redeem that if you and the other person are willing to do the work. But it's we gotta sometimes take the I don't want to say blame, that's probably the wrong word, but we have to be accountable for our decisions in our relationships, whether that's marriage, friendship, business, whatever it is. You may have entered into a business relationship, because again, we want to keep this balance. You may have entered into a business relationship with somebody and everything in your gut told you don't enter into this relationship, but because you wanted to override it, or you had an agenda and you want to do certain things, or you thought there was a benefit. Now you've locked yourself and yoked yourself into a relationship that was never balanced for you to begin with. And now when all these circumstances start popping up, all right, okay, either I'm going to deal with it because I caused on myself, to give me the special grace to endure it, or I have to make a decision.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What I hear you saying is, you have to have faith either way. If you're walking in the will of God, you have to have faith, right? Because just because you're walking in the will of God doesn't mean that it's going to be a bed of roses. Just because I have the person that I was actually reading today, as we were packing up, I actually found 2 papers. I've been journaling since I was 15. One page from 2010 in my journal. I met Nate that same year. I made like a vision book. I had a picture of what I wanted my husband to be like. I said I wanted him to be a man of God. I wanted him to, love God. I said, I don't know why I said this, Jesus. I wanted him to have a sense of humor. And Lord, he gave me abundantly, supernaturally abundant above all that I asked for. Because Nate always playing. I'm like, bro, you play too much. I had this list of things that what I wanted in a spouse. Looking at who Nate is today, in spite of any mistakes that he's made over the years, despite anything that I feel like, I wish he was more like whatever. I looked at that paper and I was like, oh my gosh.
Look at that.
God led me to the person that had each and every one of these qualities.
Wow. Come on now. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. Now, some of the qualities came in a way I didn't expect them to, but each and every one of the qualities, and so I was like, wow. So when his sense of humor is on 100, and because I don't have that sense of humor, I'm very no nonsense. I don't want to laugh. Don't try to make me,
stop it.
It's true. Like my aunt told me the other day, we were at dinner and he's acting like a 16-year-old. And I'm like, bro, can I eat my steak? And my aunt was like, "You are so mean to him. Why are you so mean?" I was like,
"Thank you, Auntie. Thank you, Auntie."
They made it was a Texas Roadhouse. So you know, a Texas Roadhouse, they make you get on the little horse and ride. Whatever they say. Now they done brought the horse out. The moment's over, and he in the restaurant talking about ride it, ride. You know, but then when I look at that paper and I see, God, I want a husband with a sense of humor.
Look
You
at
know what I'm saying? It just, you know, you need faith to even say, wow, like, even though that annoys me, that's what I asked God for.
That's what you had. Look at that.
I need the faith in those moments to say, no, he's not trying to annoy you. This is just who he is. You know, you need faith, whether God gave you the person, you know, or whether you did get into it with somebody that you really shouldn't have been with. Either way, you need something to anchor you. To say, if I want this to work out, if I want this to last, it has to come from something. You know what I'm saying? It has to come from something bigger than me.
That's
it
it.
has to come from something bigger than me.
And I like what you said earlier. You kind of made the point earlier about having the faith. Like, you can have the faith for the great things. You could have the faith to see things change, right? See this change in a person. But like you said, and I believe that, I feel like that's one of the points that you were making was, do you have the faith to endure? Like, you could have the faith, oh Lord, I have faith to see things change, but do you have the faith to stand, to endure? Because, you know, it may, and it may never change. Do you have faith to believe that I still got it all under control, even if you don't see the change that you want to see? You know, the only thing I'm upset about the whole thing is that she didn't write down billionaire on the thing. You know, so I may be praying for the billions.
Listen, mate, she found a letter. Just write it in there yourself.
Because obviously, you know, God has, you know, but I think that's an amazing point. Having, when we talk about faith in relationships, and especially the marriage relationship, what if these things never change? I love the book of Hebrews when it talks about the faith chapter, and it lists all of these great people in the great hall of faith: Moses, Abraham, Abel. It talks about all of these people and how they obtained things by God through faith. And then at the bottom of that chapter, it talks about the others. I love the scripture. It says, and then there were others who were sawed in half, who were burned at the stake, who were, you know, eaten up by, it says these people believed even unto death. They never even saw the promise come to pass, but they still believed. And I love it when the scripture says, and this world was not worthy of those individuals. So that lets me know that in my marriage relationship or any relationship I have, there is a level of faith that I can possess that this world is not even worthy of. My spouse may never, you know, some people may say, you're dumb. How could you stay married to an alcoholic? Leave him. Well, what if I am the only person who loved him in this world and showed him the love of God? Even though he struggled with this addiction all his life, he still died, closed his eyes, and went to be with the Lord because he knew the love of God through the wife who didn't give up on him. And so I think there comes a time in your marriage where you have to say, if this never changes, how do I, and that's what I think, speaking to what you said earlier, Miss Dawn, even when things didn't change right away, you said, I just was quiet. How do I stay in faith to say, even if this never changes, I'm going to find a way to enjoy my marriage, to enjoy my spouse, and to enjoy my life. And I think that's a huge thing if you don't want to go through divorce.
Because the enemy, he'll try to bring stuff in that he know what you don't like. So he'll keep triggering, doing, you know, little things. You'll be like, God dog it. But you have to use wisdom. God allowed me now in my later years to use wisdom instead of getting all in a you know,
getting in your feels.
I will say, so Ken, I will say, so I know you guys kind of starting to venture and transition into a new place, but I want to go back 20 years ago when you guys just, you know, got together. There was all of this anticipation for a great life together. Both of you guys have vision, you guys started learning each other. Then it's got to a point where you're like, okay, I got you figured out now.
Until I don't get you figured out no more.
So I don't know if you can give me an example, but what did it look like when you guys were kind of journeying together, and then all of a sudden where you thought like, okay, we got this down, and all of a sudden it's like
the evolution happened.
Yeah, and I don't even know you anymore. I got to almost learn you. Who is this person?
We moved and
I know, but
and then we got saved. Even from the transition when we wasn't saved and we were together 7 years.
Look, Nate, I can give you like the podcast answer. I can give you the
I want the podcast. This
people really don't know us. They think everything
this is the unpodcast podcast.
Yeah,
it hasn't been peaches and cream.
The real answer is honestly, Nate, like literally, even now, I'm still trying to understand this woman. Like, I'm still, and I think she's still trying to understand me. Like, it's 27 years now. You know what I mean? And so it's crazy because I remember when I tell her this all the time. When we met, I knew within a week that she was my wife. Like, I knew she was my wife, right? But we lived together for about 7 years before we got married. You know what I'm saying? And like our journey has been a story of endurance and overcoming, man. Like we have had one challenge after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next. I mean, from our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, like it even like intensified in the 40s. And really like just now, like she's 52 and me heading to 50. I think now we're at a place where we're like, okay, we know and we're in agreement of where we want to go, and we're taking the step together.
Even though we knew God put us together in our gray areas, even though then He was still looking out for us. And when we got saved, it's like our whole walk, how we seen how God totally transitioned us, because when we wasn't in the Lord, we moved every 2 years.
Yeah.
We wasn't stable.
Yeah. Had a different phone number by every 3 months. We had a new number.
Everything, different jobs.
Yeah.
But when we look back, even for me being in the school system with children and working in the office, learning how to organize and handle office work, and which helped us with our business. Yeah. And with the youth, by me working with the children, knowing what to do, how we orchestrated the youth functions, the plays, all of that. I knew how to accordingly work with children and young adults. Yeah. So when we look back, we see how God transitioned us, and even to now, and our life has been
it's been an amazing journey, because again, man, when we can sit down and talk to you guys about things, man, that would blow people's mind. I mean, me and this one, we've endured 5 miscarriages together. You know what I mean? Like people would never know that, but it's like through it all, even with the challenges and all those different things, we can still say, but God was still with us throughout the whole thing, one thing at a time. And I think now, just now, heading into you're in your 50s. Yeah, you robbed it. But
yes, you did.
Just now, I can say we're in a position mentally, emotionally, physically, where we can say, okay, we see the same thing. We've learned enough lessons, and now we're ready to move into that next phase of life. But it's been a journey.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't want our listeners to miss that. Whether you are whatever type of relationship you have, what I just heard you guys say is so important. I just heard you say when the relationship is young, when the relationship is in its adolescence,
Mm-hmm.
when the relationship has come into a level of maturity. Still give it time. Like, don't be so quick just to give up on the relationship because you with an imperfect person. Like, give it time to breathe. That's amazing. That's blowing my mind, because you're saying we're just getting into and heading into our 50s, and we're just now arriving to the place where we feel like we
wisdom. How those years ago. This is the one thing that I must say. Trusting God. He allowed us to trust him all the way to now. And that's why we're faith walkers, because people don't know when there was no income. We had no income and he still provided. He still provided with daily needs, even though I didn't go get my nails done. I didn't go get my hair done.
Come on, girl.
I wore the same ponytail for a month or two. You understand? I brushed the ponytail.
Come on, girl.
Had to do those things. I'm glad my mom taught me how to take care of my spa needs, at home. But it was so, when I look back, I cry sometimes I cry when those moments come of where he has brought us from, and it's just, even with this place, from the house to this place, I say, Lord, if you're going to move me from my house, I want city lights and water. This was the 10th place on my list, even though this place, and they didn't receive pets then. And I said, the lady say, oh, we'll take care of that. You just do this.
Wow.
And this was a place that I started, and he gave me. He gives you what you ask for. Just ask him.
I think just to kind of bring it back to, your question, because hopefully we're answering the question. We're not getting too far with what you're asking. But I think that we got to understand that God uses our relationships to perfect us as individuals.
Absolutely.
That's just part of the sovereign power, right? And so the good and even the things that we perceive as bad he's still using it to work for our good, right?
Absolutely.
And so, when we're going through, I think the mature, if you can get to a place quickly where you understand that whether I like it or not, it's still working for my good. So let me find the lesson and let me find where I can improve, right? Let me stop pointing the finger. God, fix her, fix him, fix her, fix him. Let me take a step back. God, I don't like this. This hurts me. This makes me feel such a da. But what are you trying to get in me? What are you trying to bring out of me in this? You know what I mean? And I think if we can get that helps us endure, even if you have the spouse that's the alcoholic, even if you have the financial issues and all that stuff, because your mindset is still, in all of this, I'm going to still count it all joy, knowing that some way, somehow, all of this stuff is working for my good. So like I said, we look back over the last 27 years, man, and there's been some stuff. But I also can say, had we not gone through, had we not had endured this, had not the water been off for this amount of time, had we not this, that, and the other, we would not be the people we are now. We would not be able to carry the mantle had we not gone through. And so, sometimes we got to be careful what we ask God for, because we want God, I want you to be able to give me this and give me that and all those different things. I still want to have an intimate relationship with you and all those things. And he'll give it to you. But the process you're going to have to go through to be able to get and carry all of that, that's what you have to be ready for. I'll say this, and then I want to share. I remember, like, when I first got saved, we were standing at the apartment that was over with the one after Musa. Okay. The townhome. And I was in the room and I was praying, and it was late one night. I was by myself, and I said, God, I know you're going to give me a bunch of money one day. I know you're going to give me a bunch of money one day. I said, but my heart is, I want you to make sure that by the time you give it to me, make sure that I want you more than I want it, right? Now, that sounds like a deep prayer, right? But I remember distinctively when I prayed that, my body inside shivered, like, do you even know what you just asked for?
Right.
Because if you're saying that, okay, you want to get to a place where you have a bunch of money, but at the same time, you want God more than it, that means God is going to have to take you through a process where he's going to have to strip you and allow everything other than him in your life to fail.
That's good. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? You want to have that. But what you're really saying is, God, would you please just afflict me so much that my friends fail me, my money, my health fail me, let my wife just fail me, let everything fail me. And so by the time you give me the money, I still know that you are more important. You're the only thing that I can rely on. This is what I'm talking about. That relationship is used, those tests, those trials, all of that stuff is used to be able to bring us to that point where he can perfect us. But that's part of the journey.
So
yeah, go ahead. Well, I was gonna ask right before, because I definitely am interested in how God has navigated you now. But I'm so stuck on you talking earlier about some of the things, some of the challenges that you guys have gone over, and you mentioned miscarriages. So I wanted to ask you, Ken, because we've experienced one ourselves, and we know this is something that a lot of couples, we found out. At least I did find out at that point that this is something that many couples experience, but it's not something that you're going to talk about, you know?
Yeah. Because I never wanted to talk about it.
Right.
And someone challenged me. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it just speaks to the fact that it is a conversation that is important. Someone challenged me a few weeks ago. She said, how many children do you have? And I was like, well, we just have the one, you know, and it took a long time to get him. And, you know, that's it. And she said, oh, that's weird. And I said, well, we did have we did get pregnant before, but it was a miscarriage. She said, oh, that's why I see too. It was a girl. When people ask you how many children you have, you always tell them one. She said, but because that baby had a heartbeat on the inside.
Hey, hallelujah.
The living soul. I mean, not a living soul, but she said it was a soul. And she said, so that means that soul is still existing somewhere. And she said, from now on, when people ask you how many children you have, don't say one anymore. Tell them we had two. One just didn't make it here. And so it is an important conversation that I think is relevant, you know, because some people don't know how to process that. They don't know how to say those types of things or talk about that. It may be a pain point for some people. So yeah, I'm glad you asked.
So how do you navigate that? Because, you know, of course, you know, the wife, the woman is going to go through her process, you know, and we know what that can look like, and we can even talk about it. But me as a man who loves his wife and really want to support her, and, you know, we want to take on everything, you know, but this is something that there is absolutely nothing literally that we can do to take that on, take that responsibility, take that burden, take that pain, take that grief. So how did you navigate that? Because I could understand 1 or 2. 5, how do you, I mean, I know she got her story, but what is your role in this?
You know, I think, again, just being transparent, I think in a lot of ways, we never really dealt with it. I don't think we ever really did. I mean, to be honest with you, she's a strong woman. She's a very strong woman. And we just pick up and you just try to continue on with life. But I do believe that there is still residual, you know, emotions and things like that probably need to be, you know, dealt with. And maybe this is a season for it. I don't know. But me as a man, I think that was your question. Me as a man, how did I, you know, I remember the first time it happened. You know, Dawn had a miscarriage in a relationship prior to me. And so she had experienced that and I had not. And I remember we went to the hospital late that night and she was starting to bleed and things like that. And then, you know, it was a really traumatic experience, the whole thing. And I saw it and it was like, it happened so fast, like my brain couldn't comprehend what just happened. You know what I mean? And then I think about 3 months later, you were pregnant again, right? Yeah. Right. And then I think it happened again. And all of these, mind you, were kind of late term. They were
21 weeks.
21 weeks where, you know, the what was it? The cervix just couldn't hold the weight of the baby, basically, what they were saying. And so, to be honest with you, Nate, I still think in some ways, I still think that I'm learning to adjust to it, because I believe that some of the things that she feels and some of her emotions are still kind of rooted in that. So I think we're still dealing with it. Right. Even though at 52, I still think we're dealing with some of the residual. And so I like you said, we're men, and as men, I desire, and I think by design, we want to fix stuff. Right. You know, if something broke, I want to fix it. You know what I mean? That's how we're made. But I think when things we can't fix, the best thing we can do is just be a source of consistency and strength in their life, so that it gives her the freedom to heal. You know what I mean? And I think that's the only thing we can do. I don't know if you want to speak on that.
You answered,
I think that's the only thing, because that, you know, you can't prepare for one, you know, let alone 5 or 6. You can't. You know, that was just when it happens, we just moved on. We just, okay, Lord, this didn't work, you know. Yeah. Okay. Just back to, we're really not back to usual, but we just continue to live. Yeah, I do think, again, I'm, you know, because I want this to be able to help someone. I do think at some point, when God allows and creates a door, I do think we should go and talk to somebody about it, because I just, you know, like you said, Yvonne, that was still your soul. That was still soul from you. And so mentally and emotionally, sometimes you got to just move on, because, you know, you just life. I got to keep going. But I think we do have to allow ourselves emotionally to fully process it, so that we can, because we never know when it's some other trauma that may be manifesting in other areas of our life, and we can't even figure out where it's coming from. I'm not saying that maybe that's it, maybe it's not, but it's worth exploring when you're ready. Right. I don't think we can rush it, because I don't think we could have handled it. I think that's
when I really lay it on you. You know, when I just shut down. Yeah. Even with this other surgery, you know what happened. You know, in September of last year with me with the cancer, I think I just shut down, and Ken takes over, because I'm like, whatever it is, you'll do it. You know,
but that goes back what I was saying. I think as men, the only thing we can do is just be
make
the pillar,
space, create
an
environment,
and just be a solid foundation. That's so good. That and understanding and patient. Like, she may want to address it now, she may not, and whether she do or not, I gotta just be stable. That's the best we can do sometimes.
Well, when you say that, Ken, it really does go into the ministry of the husband, right? Because that is who Christ is to us. You said it earlier. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, right? And so when the church, when she becomes shaken, when we see all of this crazy stuff on social media, and you're like, well, who is the church? What is that? What is the church's identity? Christ's love for the church has never changed. He says, upon this rock, I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail it. I will water her with my word. No matter what season she is in, whether she's in the dark ages or whether she's in the technology age, I will water her with my word. I will adorn her with my love, so that she can endure. And so when you talk about becoming that, creating a stable place for her, it reminds me just of that scripture that says, hey, the person who builds their life on the revelation of Jesus Christ is like the person who builds it on a rock. And it is very comforting and reassuring as a wife to know that, like you said, you got sick, you know, with the issues of the babies and everything. It's comforting and it's securing to know that this thing may be going on in my life, but I know that this thing right here is consistent. I trust Jesus because of his consistency. He has never let me down. He has always been Jesus. May have revealed himself in different ways over me, but he's always been Jesus ever since the day he first revealed himself to me. And and the reason why I chose, a lot of people say, well, the man choose the woman. No, I chose the man. I chose who I wanted to be with. I had some crazy people after me. I was like, the devil is a lie. When God revealed the crazy, I was like, oh no, I can't be making that choice. I can't yoke myself to you. You crazy.
Come on.
We can't both be crazy. One of us got to be saved.
I asked God, I say, Lord, I'm ready to get married. And I met him on the third Sunday when they was having the thing at the park. So we met, and it's never been separate ever since then.
And but I think that's what that stability. Nate, I can always trust Nate to be Nate, though he evolves, though he changes and goes through these different stages in his life. He got more gray in his beard now than he had.
Keep living, bro. Keep living.
but I can always trust Nate to be Nate, and that was the thing that stood out to me about him. And that's why I said, you know what, I could see myself being with this person and trusting him, because Nate has always been consistent in who he is, both all of the great stuff and then all of the why he can't pick up the drawers off the floor. You know, he's been consistent.
Why you say that like that's really our testimony, like there's drawers on the floor. I want to say to all the listeners and all the viewers that this ain't her testimony. It's just an example. Disclaimer.
Okay, disclaimer.
You pick up the socks.
I pick up my drawers.
Okay, the socks then, Jesus. The shoes that I just took a picture
of
the other day.
We always gonna have to pick up after. It's like another child, but they're your husband. But you always stuff. Did you do this? Did you do that? You know, so that's one of our. He know that's one of our routine. Did you do this?
She's like, did you do this? Did you do that? I'm like, stop.
And then you be like,
later on, I don't do it.
Well, well,
I do want to say, because I've been anticipating this whole thing for the whole time. I'm trying to get there. Okay, so you guys were together. You guys then transition into first kind of living together without really committing to following Jesus. You made the commitment to follow him, so your relation kind of made a transition. Then you guys went into ministry, doing the youth ministry and all of that. Navigated that time. Before you got into what you're doing right now, how did you transition from the ministry to the photography? Was that Dawn's vision? Did Dawn wake up, have a dream?
No. I'm gonna keep it real.
Well, I did add in the photography. Then that's the part that took up. But we had a media company, which the photography was under that umbrella.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So he can go ahead.
No, Dawn. I gotta give my wife credit, because I'm an entrepreneur and I come up with ideas in a minute. And she has always come behind me. Now, she may have fussed at me when she's doing it, but she'll always come behind and support whatever idea I had. She would just come along and kind of plug in to see how she could fit in, But when we got, I think, we weren't doing photography during the youth ministry. No, we were just doing, we were just doing like audio production, stuff like that. And then after we transitioned out of that, we started in the media, and then we wanted to get into offering photography service, which I have a nephew who's still a great photographer. And he was 18 at the time, and we wanted to get into it. So I didn't know if this 18-year-old kid would be like reliable. So I just picked up a camera and said, I'm just going to try to figure out something in case he flakes on us. But anyway, the photography kind of blew up. And that what kind of carried us for the last 10, 12 years, pretty much doing photography. And it's ran its course. Now we're
So how did you? Because I find that interesting at times, because when I first was really kind of getting in my 20s, where I'm trying to solidify myself in Christ. I always figured that whatever I was doing in my 20s, that's what I would be doing for the rest of my life. There was nothing in my mind that said, you might be doing this calling or whatever you think it is for a stint, and then you're going to move on. So how did you know, okay, it ran its course. It's
because Miss Dawn said,
Oh.
it ran its course, I think
listen,
Lord,
Yvonne, that's really the
I'm right here. I'll be listening.
that's the short answer.
I'm
Y'all
listening.
want to know how the photography, how we transition out of that now? That's what you want to know?
Yes.
That's what Nate wanna know.
You're going to be 60, 50. You're not going to be walking around here clicking no camera. We got to find something else. And I was like getting really tired of it. That's why you probably seen us, eliminate the events. We stopped doing the events right before a pandemic. And then from there, we set a time. It was like, we're really tired from the weddings.
Yeah.
So we stopped doing weddings, 2 years ago? Yeah. And it was a lot.
Yeah.
It's just us two doing a full wedding. We see some people, 5 people, and they doing what we do.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's why we're so tired. But anyway,
you know what though? If I'm gonna be honest, like I don't know if any of my clients are listening to this because we've been doing this for 13 years. But the truth is, I'm not a photographer. I'm not a photographer. Never really had
my pictures.
Right.
My pictures say otherwise.
I know.
In fact, the pictures, the logo that makes up Ordained Love are from that shoot.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not a photographer. I'm not. I'm a creative person, and I'm an entrepreneur. And I developed the skill set, and we happen to stick with photography long enough to really kind of perfect it.
Right.
But I'm not a photographer. I'll tell you how I know, because I don't photograph anything unless I'm getting paid. A photographer, who I consider to be photographers, they probably walking around with a camera outside now, just enjoying the craft of photography. That's never been me. It was a business, and it provided for us for a while. And then after a while, the business of photography also carries a lot of other weight to it.
You can go ahead and put it on.
No.
Where we go to
No.
You can save that part. You can save that part when we go to dinner and we do our little double.
Yeah, we open it up.
Y'all can tell me that
now. But I mean, the point I'm making is that God is the source, man. And when He says, "All right," when Him and Dawn say it's time to
I like that. That's
like you said, I'm 48. I'll be 49 this year. She's 52. And you start thinking about retirement and what do we want to do for the next 10 years?
And the truth is, I didn't want to share my husband anymore because he's such a nice guy, and women see him, they love the talk, and
he is a little handsome now.
So
I think I might pick up
enough of it.
You need me to roll through, girl.
It's only so far you can go, so I say, Lord, this is the end of it, and He did it better than me. He always do it better than what you can do. So,
but it was time though. It was time.
What does the next 10 years look like then?
So right now we made a complete left and we went into government contracting. I know you're like, where in the world that came from?
No, I'm not, because you just said you're an entrepreneur, and I get it. I'll be in the and they be like, yeah, these contracts. I'll be like, oh, contracts.
You understand? And so I'm like, listen, with the way the economy is going, who has the money? And nobody spend more money than the government. So we went through the whole process and set the business up and certifications and all that stuff, and going through. And so for the next,
who is it certified in?
It's certified in this lady's now. I told her the other day. No, I did. We did. We
Miss Dawn.
Listen. God here. I always worked on behind the scenes with my husband, and I got my LLC back in, was it 2020 and 21, and then now it flourished over with me having my own company, and he's backing me up.
And so again, you see how God, now again, we talk about, this is a great subject to end on, right? Mm-hmm. Because we talk about, we started a conversation about being behind the scenes, right? and how, that was her purpose to support me and lift me up in the ministry and photography and to serve and all those different things for that season. And she did it, right? She did it. Now, bringing this thing full circle, we're going into now the business is Dawn's Unique Collaborations, right? She owns 75% of it. I own 25%. But now I'm building for her. And I told her, I said, I'm going to build this into a 7-figure business as a gift to you.
Right? See, I didn't even
hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Nate, I want to give.
Let's find out.
Because I do appreciate. I appreciate those 20 years she gave me, give me time to develop. You know what I'm saying?
Good. Hold on, say that again. How much time did she give you to develop?
She gave me 20 years.
Come on.
20 years. And, it's been, 27 years we've been together, but 20 years of just really allowing me to explore me and, learn and fail. And, we done did some crazy stuff, man. We had businesses. We used to hammer out signs on I-95 and just crazy stuff that we're allowed to explore to be able to get here. And now,
so hold on, Mr. Ken, I don't want to cut you, but I just want to make sure I say this to the person who mad because they've been married for a year and their husband ain't changed yet.
Come on, man.
Oh, no.
Come on.
You got to endure.
You got to endure.
Yeah.
You got to endure. You got to.
Absolutely. So we have to land this plane, guys. We could sit here and talk to y'all all day. It's as natural. It feels as natural as breathing to be having this conversation with you guys. So we're definitely going to have you guys back for another episode. And Nate, I want you to give your final thought, and I'm going to give my final thought. Actually, before we do that, that's Miss Dawn, we heard what the next 10 years looks like from Ken. What does the next 10 years look like on your end?
Rest. Because even though this is God has put things in my name, it's ours, but he needs rest. And I'm looking out for his, because Ken didn't know how to enjoy the nation, just to enjoy life. He didn't know. He's just steady, so
I bet you he'd be taking pictures now. He gonna be taking pictures,
and I just, you don't have to work as hard. We don't have to work, and God is doing this because we keep him first. He's doing this. He's what it is, strategically alignment. So this is of his doing. Sometimes you have to endure. You have to go down the long road, but it's worth it.
Come on, that's a word.
Good.
All right.
So listen.
Oh yeah.
Hey, look, we got. Don't get Yvonne started. We might be here for another hour.
A little while. Listen, I want to give y'all the last words. And before you do, I just want to thank you guys so much for inviting us in. And you guys are a true light. And, the anointing is obviously on you guys' life. And I believe God is going to use your platform mightily to be a blessing, not only to marriages, but just in relationships in general. So the only thing I want to leave you guys with is do not allow people or even yourself to put you in a box, right? If God give you that crazy idea that doesn't make sense to nobody else, y'all run with it, because he's going to bless it, man. And so y'all been a blessing to us.
Amen.
And we pray that something we shared tonight was a blessing to somebody else.
Thank you. I'm sure it was. Absolutely. Actually, I'm about to see what blessing Nate took from it now. What's your bottom line? What's the moral of the story?
Man, it's so much good stuff. But I think to simply put it is to trust in God, to trust in God and just follow him through, no matter what the journey looks like. The fact that you guys adapted throughout everything, this issue happened, that issue happened, we navigated, and then we had to learn what that looks like. We had to learn what we look like. We had to learn us again. And so that constant evolution, that constant adapting to new circumstances is part of the journey. And it's not like the trajectory is not like we just take off and go this way. And so now I'm not surprised when I feel a dip in the plane,
Come on.
Maybe there's a cloud that I'm avoiding. There's a storm that I know that I need to navigate. And so when I see those unexpected changes, I have to remind myself, and that's what one of the things I'm learning, that God is he's still stable. He's still that solid anchor that I can hold on to despite whatever the navigation, even in the stuff that I may have caused to you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He makes it all work out.
That's it. Good. That's it.
And so that's definitely what I got out of this conversation. Just the journey is going to look different, and it might not be what we expect it to be. And in 5 years, it may look like something totally different than we thought it was going to be. But God is definitely still in the mix, and you guys are evident of that. Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to leave it with one thing. Once he do one thing, when you step out in faith, you always go back to that it's going to be all right. So just like when he did that big thing with us with our house where we didn't have any money, faith, we always go back to that. You know what? He brought us out of that. So this is,
that's another conversation. God gave us $350,000 home. We didn't have no credit, no money, nothing. That's a whole nother conversation.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have to come. We'll come on that on our next set. When we get our next set ready, then we have that conversation.
It has been a pleasure.
We're absolutely going to have you guys back, guys. The moral of the story for me is it's all about the process. It's all about the journey. If you're asking God for a man with a sense of humor, know that sense of humor is coming to refine and develop the places in you that are stick in the mud, right? That are uptight, right?
Come on.
and you got to just be okay with the fact that you uptight and you don't want to be that. God don't want you to be that way no more.
For your good. That's how y'all will end up forever and ever. That's
And I also learned that when rather I'm in my process or rather my husband's in his process, one of the most valuable things that I can do is make sure that I'm talking to God about it. And then that's it. Just talk to God about it and shut my mouth. That's it. Don't talk to nobody else about it.
But that's the big one. Shut my mouth. Come on.
Wait, hold on. Let me get my
wisdom 101.
Let me get my pen. My wife says she gonna shut her mouth.
You gonna write that down?
What's the day?
The day of the 30th.
When somebody comes on to teach me, when somebody comes on to teach me wisdom, I'll be taking notes and I plan to get an A because I feel like the reason why we learn from couples like Ken and Dawn is so that we don't have to make those same pitfalls. We can learn from their journey. That's why we read the Bible. I'm not reading about David just because I think he's cute. I don't know what David looked like, but I'm learning from his story, all of the great things he did and all of the mistakes he's made. I'm learning from his story. So we thank you guys for coming in today and sharing your story with our listeners and our viewers. We appreciate you guys. We are going to have you back. You have to come back for another amazing episode of the Ordained Love Podcast. See you guys.
Goodbye, everybody.
Oh, before you guys do leave, I do want to ask, is if anybody want to connect with you guys?
Oh, yeah, we can. You can't go without giving them your handles.
So we launched a new ministry called Wisdom is Currency. And if you guys are interested in following us on Facebook, it's Ken Bridgett. My wife only has Instagram, which is Dawn's Unique Collaborations, right? Instagram. And but Wisdom is Currency, where we're talking about faith, we're talking about finances, we're talking about revelation. You can find that on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram as well. My wife also, by the way,
we'll do it on next time.
I want to throw it in there. My wife also wrote a book called the Wife Behind the Scenes Surviving, as a matter of fact. So this is available on Amazon and also on Barnes and Noble. It's nice. Behind the Scenes Surviving, Dawn Bridgett. And she really goes more into her testimony, again, talking about some of those things which you discussed, how to endure, how to overcome when you're in a position of learning how to thrive, even in being in a position of serving from behind the scenes.
So the next book gonna be in the front. So
yeah. The wife in front.
In the front.
So guys, make sure you go and cop Miss Dawn's book. Make sure you go get it now. It's called again, Wife.
The Wife Behind the Scenes Surviving.
The Wife Behind the Scenes Surviving. Go cop that. Connect with Dawn. Connect with Ken on their social handles. Make sure.
Wisdom is currency. Yep.
Wisdom is currency on Facebook. And YouTube. And I've checked those videos out myself. Those videos are amazing. There's some really good nuggets in there, guys. So make sure you connect with them. You guys are a part of the Ordained Love family. We love you, and we are going to see you guys next time on the Ordained Love family.
All right. Love you guys.
Appreciate you guys.
Love
Proud
you
of you
guys.
guys. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.